Welcome back to the 411 Podcasting Network. I'm your host, Larry Csonka, and this is episode 62 of the 411 on Wrestling Podcast. You can follow us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, and of course, the 411mania.com website. Please make sure to subscribe to the show, share us around on social media, and if you have time, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Thankfully, I know everybody is happy. I have a guest host again tonight, a co-host. Jeremy Lambert is back. Jeremy, how are you after, leaving and abandoning me to go alone Sunday night?
The co-host. I'm second in command on this show.
You weren't anywhere Sunday night, so you lost that status for a show.
I was watching 90 Day Fiancé on Sunday night instead of Impact Bound for Glory, so that's a much better show than Impact. I actually liked Bound for Glory. I did watch it, but if you're not watching 90 Day Fiancé, everybody, get on that. That's the best storytelling in all of television.
What channel is that even on? I keep seeing commercials for it, but
TLC.
I figured it was something like that, so...
It's great, and they've got like 5 different spin-offs of it. It's amazing.
There you go. I love shows like that. Sometimes they're great background noise.
Look, if you saw the Leva Bates match from AEW Dark, the way she runs, they have a guy on that show who runs exactly like her. So look, 90 Day Fiancé, everyone should be watching that. Much better than Leva Bates.
I wrote this, and there are people that don't... Jeremy, she has been wrestling for 13 years.
I didn't know that, actually. I thought, I knew she was Blue Pants, and that seems like it was forever ago. But I didn't realize she'd been in the business that long, because you never, hear of, this great Leva Bates, indie match or anything. And now you know why you never hear of these great Leva Bates.
I don't think I've ever
matches.
seen a great match. I saw one that was really, really, really good years ago. It was in the Shine title tournament versus Mia Yim, and I think that was the peak. All downhill since then, back into cosplaying and being generally not good.
I think her gimmick, the librarian's gimmick sucks, but the cosplaying stuff it has a place in wrestling. Obviously, wrestling is just one big cosplay, if we're being honest. But yeah, her actual in-ring work, that match was brutal. And Nyla Rose, God bless her, she tried. She's not someone who can carry... she's not going to carry a lot of girls. She's definitely not carrying Leva Bates.
The thing is, too, is people also forget that Nyla is, really green herself. So it's she's definitely not anywhere near that position. And, yeah, that was a bad match on AEW Dark this week. A match I would not have aired personally. I would have done something else and fill that time. And That's
the big thing I've seen a lot of people talk about is airing it. They come off very minor league and stuff, and I get that, but it's just a YouTube thing. So if you wanna get them out there, you want to get them out there. If that had made television, then that would have been just god awful. But for YouTube, it's fine. I don't know if I would have aired it, but this is the issue when you're not running live events and house shows and stuff like that, is you want these people to work, so you've got to have them work something, and AEW Dark is really the only place they can work right now, unless you have them doing indie matches. They should send Leva to bar wrestling and championship wrestling from Hollywood and stuff, and have them, and Peter Avalon's big in both of those promotions, have them work there and get some general experience, because putting her on this show just not working.
Send her to the Soviet Union. One-way ticket.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. It's just I try to be nice and respectful, but sometimes people are just not good. Yeah.
No, yeah, and she's not good. She's not. There's no other way around it. She's not a good professional wrestler.
So, this is the Wednesday Night War reaction show, Jeremy. We're gonna break down both shows this week, and that's gonna be the big topics for tonight. We're not going to dive into anything else. And so we will start off AEW Dynamite. They had a loaded show, tons of matches announced. We started off in the ring with the Lucha Bros and Private Party ready to go for their tag team match, Jeremy. The Lucha Bros defeated Private Party 12.5 minutes. Your thoughts, sir?
I like that they just went straight to the match. I was like 30 seconds late turning on this show, and they were already in the ring ready to go. And I was like, oh, okay, this is how we're going to kick it off. I was completely fine with that. It was what you would thought it'd be from these two teams. All action. Ray Phoenix is awesome. Absolutely awesome. I'm sure you've watched the Omega match from Lucha Libre. That match ruled, and yeah, Phoenix is great. I love Pentagon. I understand why they're a tag team, and I mean they're in the finals for next week. They may or may not win. It's really a toss up between them and SCU. I hope we get a Phoenix and Pentagon singles run at some point in AEW, because Phoenix he can be the Rey Mysterio-esque with the way he moves and his charisma and presence in the ring. And Pentagon, for people like me and you who watched Lucha Underground from start to finish, like Pentagon was one of the, if not the biggest star of that show and the different iterations that they did with him. So we know he can get over being a single star as well. Like Lucha Underground Pentagon, one of my favorite acts in the past however many years, like the past 5 years or so. That's how much I love that guy. As far as this match, great complete action. Private Party, I love them as a moves team. I thought Marquand looked a little off on this one. There were some moments where he just seemed like he was a little slow and his timing was a step behind, where you didn't really see that in the Young Bucks match. Didn't like it quite as much as the Young Bucks match, but that's not a negative. That match was awesome. And Lucha Brothers winning, I get it. They really built the Lucha Brothers and SCU thing. They almost tipped their hand on the tag tournament by having them attack each other the very first week of the show and then having those attacks continue. Private Party, it felt like they almost just needed it more after that Young Bucks win, though, because they had such momentum, and then they lose here, and it's like, okay, now where do they go from here? The Young Bucks win is still there, so I'm interested to see where Private Party go from here on the loss.
Yeah, great action-packed match to kick off the show. Loved it. Everybody, I thought it was really good. I agree. I would love to see the Lucha Bros eventually get singles runs, but I mean, I have no problem with them being an early anchor of the tag division, because the tag division is stacked. Private Party, again, they're only going to get better. They're still young. Working with the Lucha Bros, working with the Young Bucks, working with a lot of these other guys, only going to help them out. Yeah, it kind of felt like they could have used a win, but I mean, again, the Lucha Bros have been built really well. They have a win over the Young Bucks, and, you want stars to anchor this division. And I think that they've built up well to the finals match. Private Party, they have that win over the Bucks. They lost to a team, though, that has beaten the Young Bucks, so I don't think that that's bad. It's no offense. It's not like they lost to the Jurassic Express after beating the Young Bucks. They lost to a named team, so I'm okay with that. Great way to open the show. Was totally fine with the cold open in order to save a little bit of time because of everything they had planned. And, great way to start the show. Afterwards, we get a Wardlow video package. He is a giant hoss man that looks like he's going to kill people when he comes.
Yeah, they did the video package for him at All Out, I believe, and this was the first time they brought him up since then. I continue to think they don't use the video packages enough, and this was really the only one we got on this show, so I thought this was a good use of a video package to remind fans that this guy is coming at some point. We don't know when, but some point.
Christopher Daniels is at home recuperating. He's okay and will be back in about 6 to 8 weeks. Holy shit, an injury angle with somebody being kept off of TV, Jeremy.
That's great. I love that they're actually doing this, and I hope he is off of TV I love Christopher Daniels, so if he comes back early, I'm fine with that. I wouldn't suspect we're going to get him running in next week, because maybe he comes out and celebrates if SCU win the titles. One thing about this angle, since I wasn't here last week, is, Daniels got laid out with the or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. Daniels got laid out with the package pile driver on the ramp, and he was stretchered out and everything. And it's a good way to put the package pile driver over, but at the same time, it's like, really? Like, that's going to put you out 6 to 8 weeks, all the crazy shit we see in all these other matches, and this package pile driver. Like, we saw a Spike package pile driver tonight on Marquand. Okay, the Young Bucks should have been dead after that tag team match. They did the package pile driver to one of the Bucks at the press conference, and that was on the stage. That's probably, I don't know if that's as hard as the ramp, but nobody was stretchered out there. I don't know. It's a good way to get the move over. I want no one kicking out of this move for the foreseeable future, honestly, especially if they're going to do like they did in the private party match with the Phoenix double stomp on top of it. Like, no one should kick out of this.
Yeah, I love that finish. It was really good. So we got a Dark Order video package, which led to SCU defeating the Dark Order in 14 minutes in the second semifinal tag tournament match. Thought it was a good match. It gets us to a final that has a story going into it. SCU are great. Dark Order can go, but the act, for me, just still isn't working, Jeremy.
They got over in this. Like, the act doesn't really work for me either. They're called like their little minion guys are now called the Creepers, I guess. So cool. The crowd got into this match by the end, so I will give them that. I think a lot of that has to do with SCU because they're really over. Yeah, Dark Order, they're good workers. We know they're good workers, but this gimmick is just falling pretty flat.
The Creepers, Evil Uno, and then the other evil man, Stewart.
They gotta give him a different name.
I said, just call him fucking Grayson. Just eliminate the first name. At least Grayson sounds like semi-mysterious and cool.
Grayson, no, it doesn't. Grayson sounds
fuck
dumb
you. The
shit.
comic nerds are to come after you now.
What? Why is Grayson like a big
Dick
name
Grayson?
in the comic?
Robin became Nightwing later on.
Okay, that tells you all you need to know, that it's not a good fucking gimmick if it's Robin.
Yes, but he became Nightwing later on, which was awesome. So
it's still Robin. Never to get out of here with that. I had a friend named Grayson in like middle school, and I mean we were both nerds, but that's why I can't go with Grayson, because it just reminds me of a nerdy friend. Yes, Stewart's not good either. How dare you disrespect Stuart Lang like that? But that's not a good name either. Just call him Gray.
Something. I don't care. It's just but yeah, the gimmick just didn't work. And again, they are very good. And obviously, if you've seen any of their pre-AEW stuff as Super Smash Brothers, you know they're excellent. And it's just not working gimmick wise for me. It's just it's like the match got over by the end, but they came out and everybody was like, "Oh, okay, these guys, okay."
Yeah, they haven't been used on TV up until now. And did they do a video package for them in the past few weeks? I really can't remember.
They did one tonight, but
right. But I mean, they did one tonight, and then they came out. Like, that doesn't help anybody. This is what I mean when it comes to using video packages. I think that they were on AEW Dark this week, weren't they?
Maybe 2 weeks ago. I think it was the first week they were in an 8-man tag.
I thought they were an 8-man tag this past week, but I don't know. All those shows run together. But still, I'm not counting AEW Dark really as what people on TV are going to watch, because it's not getting the same viewership numbers. I'm sure it is similar audiences and whatnot, but this is what I mean when you can use video packages to get guys over, though. But they don't use video packages often enough. You knew this match was coming up. You knew the Dark Order had a first round bye. Like, you should have been putting them over more. Is like, hey, they won this convoluted fucking mini tournament that we set up to get a first round bye for the real tournament. This is their gimmick, and this is why you should pay attention to them. But they didn't do any of that, and it made them like it's not a good act anyway. But they didn't really do them any favors in the introduction here.
Yeah, this is very true. We can make the argument all day long for video packages. I think the biggest crime, though, on this show, 4 weeks in, is that Jon Moxley has not been given a live microphone.
Yeah, I guess it was whenever he faced Shawn Spears, so like 2 weeks ago. And no, it was last week. It was last week's show when they did the tag match, and like he does his entrance, and then they do the little picture-in-picture where he cuts a promo, and like it was a fine promo. The problem was it was a very similar promo to the one they put up on Twitter, the hours before the Shawn Spears match. And that promo ruled, where he's like storming into the arena, going through security. He goes into the ringside area. He looks around at the empty crowd and stuff. And he just like cuts this awesome promo of like, you keep criticizing me and shit. You call me weak because I couldn't make it. Now I'm fucking here and I'm ready to destroy all you fools. And I was like, yeah, this Jon Moxley, this is the Moxley that I've fallen in love with over the summer. And like that should have aired on television, and it didn't. Like it was just on social media, and they did a watered down version of that for Moxley last week. And I mean, he still isn't talking. It's weird, and this is the problem. I understand they want to be a lot of wrestling and a lot of action. You got guys who can cut promos. You can do. Like we watch Being the Elite. We know these guys are very charismatic and good, wrestling actors, and you got to give them some type of microphone time like that. And whether it be with video packages, whether it be interviews with Shivani, which they did that the first week, and we really haven't seen that since. And yeah, they've gone away from that. It's been just like wrestling after wrestling after wrestling, and that's cool, but you got to let some of this stuff breathe sometimes.
Especially when you have guys like, we had that awesome Jericho promo the other week, and especially you have Moxley, who hasn't talked in front of that crowd yet and really should. So,
yeah,
but
for sure.
So SCU won. They're going to the finals versus the Lucha Bros, which takes place next week.
I would, as I said, I think they tipped their hand on this. I mean, this was the attack the first week, and then we had the attack of Christopher Daniels. So you could kind of see where they were going. That's fine. It gives the finals a little bit more heat. It should already have heat because you're crowning your first ever tag team champions. But I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago, like some of these matches are becoming a little bit predictable on who is going to win. And that's what I felt in these two tag team matches. Like once Lucha Brothers, I thought Private Party had more of a shot after they beat Young Bucks. But like once the Lucha Bros won, you knew SCU was winning this match. And they can't tip their hands so much on some of these matches.
That's fair. I don't have necessarily a huge problem with it as long as the matches keep delivering, but I can see how that would turn some people off. So, fair point.
Yeah, the matches are definitely delivering, which is great.
But no, that's a very fair point you're bringing up. So we went to singles action next. Kenny Omega defeating Joey Janela, a rematch from their unsanctioned match on AEW Dark, which was pretty great. Jeremy, your thoughts on this match?
This was another one where you knew Omega was winning, and I don't know what they're doing with Janela. He's another guy where, like, why isn't this guy... Where's the video packages for Joey Janela? Joey Janela got himself over on the independent scene with just fantastic video packages and really showing off like his character and his depth as a creative artist. And we haven't seen any of that. This was his first Dynamite match, and he's supposed to face Jack Evans. That was the announced match, and like 3 hours later they're like, oh, we're gonna have him face Omega. It's like, okay, if he faces Evans, you figure Janela's gonna win. That's great. That's a good win for him, and he can move on and they can start building him. But once he was in there against Omega, it's like, well, fuck, now you're just beating Janela, so Omega's gonna win. And Omega should have won. I'm not saying that was the wrong call. Did they even show highlights of the Omega and Janela AEW Dark match? They showed highlights of the Omega and Phoenix match and put over Omega winning the Mega Championship. But they should have shown highlights of the Omega and Janela match and shown people like, hey, if you haven't seen this match on AEW Dark, here's some clips from it. It ruled. Go check it out. That the fans loved it so much. That's why you're getting the rematch right here. And they didn't do any of that. Match was great. I'm not saying it wasn't. It was great, and because both guys are awesome, but some of the presentation on this stuff, it might feel a little nitpicky, but you almost have to nitpick with AEW. They do a lot of things right. But yeah, I wish the presentation of Joey Janela was a little bit better.
I can agree with that. I thought the match was very good. Obviously, Omega was going to win heading into the pay-per-view. We're to talk a little bit later about something from this show I would have cut. that would have allowed you to add a lot of the stuff we're talking about, like video packages for guys. I think they're missing the boat a bit on not airing some highlights from AEW Dark. Like, you could have done the Janela Omega highlights here and just some of the other guys that haven't been on TV at times and stuff like that. Just, number one, you're letting people know about that show, but number two, you're giving context to, like, I haven't seen this guy on TV. Why is his record this? Well, he's been competing on AEW Dark, and he beat this person, he lost to this person, blah, 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 blah. So I think that would be more important to... Because there's a match on this show we're going to talk about later that you easily could have sacrificed. But moving on, Cody Rhodes came out for an interview, Jeremy, and he was going to tease an announcement, but Chris Jericho and the Inner Circle were hanging up in a VIP box, drinking a little bit of the bubbly, and were blowing air horns at Cody, wouldn't allow him to talk, just being little douchebags. It was pretty great. I mean, it was nothing over the top. It's just every time Cody went to open his mouth, you just heard the air horns going off. Little annoying air horns. It was funny. And then Cody threatened to come up there, and Jericho called him a coward and entitled little millennial bitch. Said it's 4-on-1, you'll never come up here. That led to Dustin arriving because he had Cody's back. Jericho continued to talk shit. MJF and his lovely scarf came out because he always has Cody's back. Jericho still talks shit, and then DDP came out. Because DDP is Cody's real-life friend, and they wanted him on the show, I guess.
Yeah, I like that it wasn't... Once Dustin came out, that made sense. I thought the Bucks were going to be right after that because the Bucks are going to face Santana and Ortiz at the pay-per-view, and it just would have made sense. But it was MJF and DDP, so that switched it up. I did like that. The Cody, like, teasing a big announcement thing... I don't know. Like it should have just, you didn't have to really tease that because it wasn't teased beforehand. It was just Cody's going to speak. And instead of, letting him speak, it was cut off with the air horns and stuff, which I liked. I didn't think the whole, let me tease a big announcement thing was necessary because now you've got to follow that up, and I'm sure they will, but it was very much like an afterthought, and maybe that was their plan. So I thought it just could have been like, hey, we're just not going to let this fucking guy speak. You didn't need the hook of, I'm going to say this big announcement, and now, okay, so why don't you say it now? AEW likes to talk about how we're not going to do invisible. Cody mentioned it. There's no invisible wall here. I can go up there and kick your ass. Like, so make the announcement now. Make it on Twitter, whatever. Like you said, you have this announcement. Why are you making us wait a week? Just do it.
Yeah. It felt a little weird. I don't know what that might be. It might have just been something about the match or whatever, but hopefully it plays into the story. Anyway, that led to Cody and his boys heading up to the VIP box. The Inner Circle locked themselves in a little office deal, and Cody just broke the glass. They brought into the concourse, had a big pull apart. I thought it was very fun, including Cody apparently trying to drown Chris Jericho in a vat of ice cream at one point.
That was great. I like this. I like the brawl. I like Jericho showing his ticket afterwards and being like, you didn't have a ticket, get him out of here and stuff. Like he's a fucking executive vice president. Of course he's there. But I like that Jericho's like, he shouldn't be allowed in my suite without this ticket and stuff. It was a fun segment. It was a nice break from the wrestling, which we had everything else on this show was wrestling, but there were some misfires in it for me. And one was the whole, let me tease this big announcement, which was unnecessary in my view. And I did the whole, there's no glass wall here, invisible wall, like that other company we work for. All right, dude, we get it.
Yeah, I don't need any of that bullshit myself, so just, whatever. Anyway, up until this point and throughout the whole show, the crowd was great for this show, by the way.
Yeah, the crowd was
and I want to say that especially because Pittsburgh gets a really bad rap for having shitty crowds. And that's well-deserved sometimes. There are many shows that have been there that have had really bad crowds. But I will also say that there have been many WWE shows there where they have really bad crowds. And maybe that's because they didn't like the product, and we always talk about the product has to deliver to actually make fans care. So, Anyway, crowd was great here. They were adding a lot to the show, which I enjoyed. Next up were the Young Bucks versus the Best Friends. This started off with Orange Cassidy was in the ring and decided to throw a flurry of vicious super kicks at the Young Bucks. And if you've never seen Orange Cassidy, what I mean is he walks over, he shuffles over and lightly starts kicking them in their shins because he's Orange Cassidy and he's very lethargic and that's what he does. But it was funny. I laughed because it's the Orange Cassidy thing. And it's one of those things to me, either you kind of get it or you don't. You know?
And Jim Ross doesn't get it at all. This is the issue and Jim Ross is like this all night, especially in the tag team match, the opening match where he's like, why do they keep fucking doing moves? Like, go for a cover and stuff. But the Orange Cassidy stuff, he clearly doesn't get. He has no time for it. The fans were reacting so huge, and he's just like, why? Like, what are they seeing? Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? Like, why is this a big deal? And then the Bucks super kick him, and like the Bucks got booed. It's very tough to get the Young Bucks booed at an AEW event, and super kicking Orange Cassidy got them booed. So that should tell you something about Orange Cassidy. Look, Jim Ross doesn't have to get some of this stuff. He doesn't have to like it, but he should put over the product that he is watching. And if the crowd is going crazy for this guy, and they were going crazy for this guy, then, he should make mention of that. He can say, all right, not my cup of tea, but the fans love him. He has a special connection, and that's what matters here. He doesn't have to be like, I don't get it. This is bullshit. Why are we doing this?
It's at this time that I would like to remind Jim Ross, not like he listens to this show, but I'd like to remind him what his fucking job is. And he gets paid to put over the product in front of him, not to share his constant little fucking nitpicks on what he does not like. I get that Jim Ross is old school. I get that he wants fellas grabbing the tag rope and abiding to the count at all costs. And I get that he wants youngsters going for covers all the time. But you know what? You have a tag match like early in the show with the Lucha Bros and Private Party that the crowd's going apeshit for. That's a pretty great match. That everybody seems to be having a great time. And maybe you should just fucking drop your little bullshit and go with it. Now, I don't want him to go full like Don Callis. Because like Don Callis fucking constantly embarrasses himself when he sits there and talks about how RVD's in the best shape of his life. He looks just like he did in 99. Hasn't missed a beat. You're fucking embarrassing yourself at that point. Because none of that is true. But your job is to put over the product, put over the performers, put over the action in the ring. I don't care that they're not using regulation tags to your satisfaction there, JR. Put over the fucking match, okay? Because you become annoying. And you start to lose the fucking plot, like with the Orange Cassidy thing. It was 12 seconds before the match started, and it was always set up so the Best Friends could attack and take the early heat on the Bucks. That's all it was there for, and to later give Orange Cassidy a big spot in the match to get revenge. That's all it was. It wasn't like he was out there for 5 minutes doing shit. He wasn't in the match. It was just a very little thing. And like you said, the crowd was going nuts for him. They love Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, I mean, I love Orange Cassidy, so I think he's the absolute best. Jim Ross, whatever. Somebody's got to have a talking to him about this stuff because it's not a good look. I don't think. As far as the match goes, Bucks win. No real shocker there. Best Friends are just kind of guys who get beat, and that's their role. And then, the Lucha Brother, or not Lucha Brothers, Santana and Ortiz and Bucks match is official for Full Gear. So that should be a good one.
Match. I enjoyed it. Best Friends they're there to do a job, and they did it. They had a good match, and that's, if they're going to lose, that's fine. As long as you have a good match. And as you said, pay-per-view match is official. Next up, I get why it was on the show because it was in Pittsburgh in her hometown. This is what I talked about earlier, Jeremy. This is what I would have cut off this show. Britt Baker versus Jamie Hayter. Now, don't get me wrong. This was not a bad professional wrestling match in any way. Britt Baker is in her hometown in Pittsburgh. You think that this would be designed to give her a showcase match coming off of her championship loss against Rhea. They have an 8.5 minute match. So after Britt Baker failing to lose the title, she's in her hometown. I feel this was booked all wrong. Should have been a short, dominant showcase for Britt Baker to allow her to shine in front of what was a hot home crowd. Instead, I felt it went a little too long, was way too competitive against an opponent that the crowd pretty much did not know. It was a solid match at best, but largely forgettable. This is 8 minutes and 30 seconds of wrestling plus entrances and a video package for Britt Baker that you could have taken off this show. And you could have dedicated to a promo, some video packages, or a little more time for the main event. You could have done a ton of stuff with this. Yeah, I get you wanted to have Britt Baker on the show, but you know what? There were way more important things to do on this show. You could have put her on Dark. She still would have had a good home crowd reaction. Probably would have fit better on there. And again, you could have done a lot again with promos or video packages or with the main event time.
You can take the match, completely remove it, as you said. You can do more video packages, which I've been advocating for. You can make the main event longer, but like that was going to a draw anyway, so you didn't want to drag it out too long. Or just like I get why they wanted Britt Baker on the show as well. She did get a huge reaction. If you put that on Dark, they want to present her as a star, and they should. She's very marketable, and she's still improving in the ring. So I understand they see a lot in her, and they've been using her on TV seemingly every week. Like she was the guest commentator for the women's title match, and she wasn't good, but she was still in that role because they obviously see a lot in her. So I can understand, like, all right, we don't want to quite put this on Dark. We're really trying to get her over and push her. If that's the case, cut the match. Like, it doesn't need to go 8 minutes. What's wrong with a 3 minute match? That's giving you an extra 5 minutes right there. Get video packages, tack on time to the main event if you need to, whatever you need to do in more interviews. It doesn't. I'm fine. I'm honestly fine with the match being on the show. I don't think it should have been on AEW Dark. I'm not fine with the match going 8 minutes because it should have. No one knows Jamie Hayter. No one cares if she loses in 3 minutes. Like, do they really have plans for this girl? I guess she's gonna feud with Brandy now. That's so stupid. Like, you could have done that position with anybody else. And if you do have plans with Jamie Hayter, then put somebody else in that position. Put Penelope Ford in that position. You clearly don't have like much plans for her. Put not Leva Bates, but put anybody in that position. There's nothing wrong with take a local talent and just have it be a quick little squash match or something. There's nothing wrong with that. They did that with Santana and Ortiz last week. They just gave them a little squash match against two guys who may or may never wrestle for the company again. Do that. Don't have it be a competitive 8 minute match.
And that was the mistake in it, because it really should have been a showcase for Baker, if anything. It wasn't even 50-50. I mean, Hayter took most of the damn match. And
yeah, it wasn't. I'll be honest. Like I got bored during this match. I was like, okay, when's this going to end? Why is this lasting so long? Like my attention kind of dropped out on this match.
And again, it wasn't bad. It was just like in context with the rest of the show, it felt like easily the weakest thing on the show.
Yeah, no, it was definitely the weakest thing on the show.
And then they were going to interview Jamie Hayter backstage, and Brandy attacked her for reasons.
Yeah, Brandy tweeted like she bumped into her or some shit. She touched her. Was that shown? And
they showed it. She was about to interview. Brandy arrived and like threw her into a fucking wall, and then the interviewer like grabbed her shoulder to ask her what she was doing, and Brandy like looked like she was fucking putting the gypsy curse on her with her hand in the air in front of her face and walked off. I did not get this at all.
Yeah,
we need like a fucking flow chart to track the Brandy Rhodes heel and face appearances in this promotion.
I was about to say, I guess Brandy's a heel now. This makes sense of her tweet of she's no longer accompanying Cody to the ring, because if you're with Cody, you're a babyface because Cody is the biggest babyface in the company right now, and I guess Brandy's a heel. So, but this just it didn't make any sense to me. Like, is the world dying for a Brandy and Jamie Hayter feud? Like, really?
No, not at all.
I don't think the world's dying for like just Brandy in
Well,
wrestling.
in wrestling, yes.
Sorry.
Like she can. Like,
Yeah, wrestling, fine, but I'm saying
no,
wrestling,
like, that's what I'm saying. Not
wrestling.
in wrestling. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, she can like. You know, she can keep it up with like the bikini shoots and her wacky little YouTube show. That's great, and she can walk out with Cody, and I'm good with all of that. But don't need to see her wrestling.
No, not really.
Then we went to the main event of the evening, Jeremy. Jon Moxley versus the Bastard Pac. Pac attacked him during the entrance with chair shot, choked him out, beat the shit out of him. And Moxley was good to go, though, and wanted to fight because he's John fucking Moxley. They went to a TV time limit draw, which, my lord, I haven't seen one of those in ages. That was like a Bill Watts staple in Mid-South and a lot of NWA studio show stuff. You got the show ending, TV time remaining. So I thought that was a cool little throwback. I like that we have time limit draws in AEW because it is much better, in my opinion. You can use time limit draws to, number one, protect people, but number two, it's another booking tool you have. I thought this was a very good main event. Pac and Moxley are fucking great. I thought the action layout were really strong, and I had no problem with the finish because AEW has already established draws into promotion as a reality. I have no issue with these two in particular going to a time limit draw because they didn't want Pac to lose. Moxley has a big pay-per-view match coming up with Omega, and you're probably saving this resolution for a singles match down the line. So there's more meat on the bone with these two. And when you have a draw as part of your canon and storytelling, it's smart to use it over sacrificing somebody or just using a flat-out fuck finish or DQ or count-out bullshit finish. So I liked it. I had no problem with it.
I don't have an issue with it either because I think if you establish draws, and AEW has, first with Cody and Darby Allin, and now here, then, as you said, they can be a booking tool that you can get out of booking yourself into a corner. Because that's what this match was. They booked themselves into a corner with Pac and Moxley. They didn't want Pac to lose for obvious reasons. They didn't want Moxley to lose for obvious reasons. And in that sense, the match shouldn't have been booked. But instead of giving fans a fuck finish with a run-in or some type of DQ or a match stoppage, whatever the fuck the Hell in a Cell thing was, they just did a time limit finish. And that's fine. It doesn't come off as what's the word I'm looking for here? It doesn't come off as the biggest slap in the face to the fans because it said TV time. The TV time ran out. We know AEW has time limits, so I get that. The issue, and this isn't my issue. This is an issue that I've just seen is fans. AEW tells everyone that you're not gonna get that kind of stuff with us. You're gonna get these clean finishes. You're not gonna get that wacky stuff. And okay, it's not a run-in, it's not a DQ, it's not a match stoppage. It's still an unsatisfying conclusion to your big main event. And when you're telling people that you're not gonna do this stuff, and then you do that in this match, are fans going to be unhappy with that? If they do this, let's say because this match went what 12 minutes?
20, yeah.
So okay, so and it's the main event. Let's say you do this in the middle of the show. It's a 20-minute time limit. It goes 20 minutes, but it's in the middle of the show. It's not how you're closing your show. It's still a time limit finish. It still protects both guys. Now you have to cut a bunch of stuff, cut the fucking Britt Baker match. So you have to cut stuff to get there, but it's just a little bit different, and it doesn't leave you with a sour taste in your mouth as the show closes and you're like, okay, that was a really good match, but I feel kind of cheapish because I didn't get the conclusion to the match. Like I didn't get a satisfying conclusion.
Fair enough. Yeah, I
mean,
no, I think it's totally fair. I don't have a problem with it. I had no problem with it. I think it works you have to work in the universe you establish, and like I don't have a problem with the time limit thing because, again, I think that they're going to follow up on it because they've done a lot of intertwining with Moxley, Pac, and Omega, and I think that we're going to get this again, and it'll be fully paid off. So I don't see a problem with it here, especially because you're building to Omega and Moxley.
Yeah, and I get why they did it. They should have done it because it was a weird booking decision in the first place because you didn't want either of these guys to lose this early. So you had to get out of that somehow, and this was the way to get out of it. I'm just wondering if there's going to be any type of backlash from their fans. Like we get it. A lot of people who a lot of kind of the older school fans will get it because, as you said, it's a throwback to however many years ago. So those people will get it. But if you're talking of how you're not going to do any of this type of things, and then the main event to your television show is this big hype match, and you don't have a conclusion on it because TV time ran out, that. It could upset a lot of people. Where the fuck Tony Schiavone's there? Why weren't the tape machines still rolling?
Fair enough.
That's what I want to know. Why didn't it finish on AEW Dark? We know those matches conclude. We know they tape stuff afterwards. So why didn't they just keep it going there? Come on now. Tape machines should have been rolling. All
right, fair enough. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked what they did, and I just the thing is too is I also have some faith that they're going to follow up on it. Because everything has been going
I agree.
well so far in that regard. So
I agree with that. Is they have built up a lot of goodwill that they say. Let me try to be clear. They say they will follow up and there will be long-term booking. There's no television evidence that they will, because we're 4 weeks into television, so you can't, there's no real proof that like, hey, they're gonna follow up on this stuff. But they say they will. They've done, for the most part, a good job on delivering everything that they said they're going to deliver. So they've built up that goodwill that they will follow up on it. But let's also not kid ourselves and be like, they've followed up on literally everything they've ever done, because that's not the case. And it's only a big part of the reason that it's not the case is that they haven't been around long enough. It's 4 weeks of television. So they haven't had the chance to prove that they can follow up on that stuff.
There you go. And it'll be interesting to see the reaction. I can definitely see people hating it. But again, I just like I said, I don't have a problem with it. So we'll see what happens, Jeremy. It'll be interesting to see if there is backlash on it. So that wraps up AEW for this week. We will move on to NXT now, Jeremy. And NXT had a big main event tonight. But we start with Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. They have been both teasing that they want to face Shayna Baszler for the Women's Championship. Rhea Ripley ended up beating Bianca Belair 12:40 via pin, even though Io Shirai tried to get involved and ruin it for Rhea. She got taken out by Candice LeRae, continuing their sub-feud there. Rhea picks up the big win. Thought it was a good match. I like the continuation of Io and Candice underneath. And looks like Ripley is closer to the title shot against Shayna.
Yeah, good win for Rhea. Right call. Bianca, I don't know what they're doing with her at this point, and that's kind of a shame because she has a lot of star quality. It feels like she should just go up to the main roster. Heyman really likes her. She could really be a breath of fresh air in the women's division that's been dominated by the horsewomen for seemingly forever. But Rhea winning was the right call because that's a fresh matchup with Shayna Baszler in a match that I really want to see. And Rhea's awesome. She's like 23. She has everything down like to a T. Her character is good. She understands her character. She's a good wrestler.
I like
great.
her a lot. Steve and I talked about her too last week. Just a lot of people poo-pooed on her being quote unquote shoved away to the UK brand for a while. But, I mean, she was young, and that was a really smart move, because she got to learn how to work as a featured performer in NXT UK, while still growing as a regular performer by doing all the Coconut Loop shows and house shows in Florida. Because, again, when you're working NXT UK, it's not like, unless you're European anyway, they don't fucking, like, relocate you. Okay, that's why we wanted Cesaro to occasionally work NXT UK, because he could go over there every 4 to 8 weeks or whenever they do a taping, knock out a taping, and come back home. Okay, so like Rhea would go over and do the taping and stuff. She was featured. She got to learn a lot. She only got better. And yeah, she has a ton of upside, especially at only age 23. Smart move for the win. I would not be surprised to see Bianca eventually moved up sooner rather than later, because as you said, Paul Heyman reportedly a big fan of hers.
Yeah, I think that would be the best move because Bianca, she seems a little lost right now.
Well, I mean, what else are you going to do with her? She already lost twice against Shayna in singles matches. And, you know, she lost this, so It feels like, she's never getting the title, which is fine. But you can't kind of keep her in the top mix only to have her lose all the time.
Right, agreed.
So, Kathy Kelly interviewed Pete Dunne outside. He was hanging out with Tyler Bate. Dunne said that Damian Priest is going to get a receipt for what he did last week, and Kelly asked Dunne about his attack on Killian Dane before that match, and Dunne said that he doesn't care about him, and basically told her to fuck off. So, there you go.
Poor way to treat Kathy Kelly. The lovely Kathy Kelly.
I got a really good Tommaso Ciampa video package about him going through his injury issues. Then Tyler Bate popped up in the crowd, and Tyler Bate was there for a reason. Next up, Matt Riddle defeated Cameron Grimes a little under 6 minutes via pin. I thought this was really good, all action, hard hitting. I thought Grimes got to look good before losing to Riddle. Good mix of styles here, because they weren't fucking around. Crowd loves Matt Riddle. He hit the jackhammer, and they were chanting Riddle like they would chant Goldberg. So that was amusing. But I really enjoyed this. And Riddle ended up countering into a powerbomb final flash and the Bro Derek for the win. Your thoughts?
Good match. Riddle's awesome. Cameron Grimes is very good. Curious booking because Grimes has been like running through guys, and it seemed like they were building him up to something, and then they just have Riddle beat him here. Like you're not going to lose much in losing to Riddle, considering Riddle just challenged for the title. But it did look like Grimes was getting on a roll there, and now he's not. And they set up the program with Tyler Bate afterwards, and like I'm all for that. Tyler Bate rules, and Cameron Grimes is. I guess he's a little divisive because he has that hat, and some people love the hat, and some people hate it. If you hate the hat, you're an idiot. I look forward to Cameron Grimes and Tyler Bate. Like that sounds like a good program.
Yeah,
to me.
I'm all for that because Tyler Bate's awesome, and Grimes has been really good. No problem with that at all. Yeah, the post-match angle was Riddle celebrated, and Cameron Grimes was being a douchebag to Bate, so he got laid out. So tough luck for you, Cameron. Rough night. Hopefully his hat is okay.
I mean, if you're going to be a douchebag, you should be laid out. I wonder where they go with Riddle after this, because it seems like he could easily be inserted into the War Games picture, which we'll get to later. But Riddle's got big star potential, and you can't just have him in these like mid-card matches for long.
Yeah, definitely be interested to see what they do with him. William Regal announced that tonight Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox will face Marina Shafir and Jessamyn Duke, and that the winners will get a shot at Asuka and Kairi Sane next week for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles.
Poor Sasha and Bayley.
I know. Never got to do their NXT title defense. What are you going to do, Jeremy?
I like this though. I like that they're honoring that the NXT title or that the women's tag team titles can be defended in NXT. Obviously, Asuka and Kairi have big history in NXT, and they'll come back. They'll probably get a great reception, even though they're heels. And people may say that it's a way to boost NXT and stuff. Like Asuka, especially at this point, Asuka and Kairi Sane aren't boosting like your ratings. Like no one who watches Raw and SmackDown that doesn't watch NXT is gonna be like, oh shit, I gotta catch NXT this week. Asuka and Kairi Sane are there. Maybe it could have been that way, but they were treated like such a joke for so long that they got the titles, and this heel run has been great. But they're not boosting any type of viewership numbers on that. I think this is more of we want to actually do something with these titles that we completely dropped the ball on from the inception until Bliss and Nikki Cross got the titles, because everything before that was kind of a misfire.
Yep, pretty much. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Could be a fun match coming up next week. We'll get to their opponents later. Up next, Isaiah Swerve Scott and Breezango defeated the Forgotten Sons 9 minutes 20 seconds via pin. Your thoughts, Jeremy?
Cool that Isaiah Scott got this run. I don't need this Breezango and Forgotten Sons feud though. Just do away with it.
Yeah, I thought the match was pretty good. I thought Scott got to look great in the match. The Forgotten Sons just do nothing for me. I mean, they scream WCW Saturday Night like in a bad way. Just like I have
they should them. Just no, they should be getting beat, and that's good. They got beat here. Just move
pretty
on.
Much. But Isaiah Scott again got to look good, and the Full Sail crowd loves Breezango, so that's good.
Yeah, they were pilots this week, right?
Doing all their wacky stuff, so that's good, though. I mean, hey, as long as those dudes are having fun, that's all that matters. We got a promo of Killian Dane, who is standing above the burning WWE Hell in a Cell main event, or is technically a dumpster fire, but same thing. It says that Pete Dunne tried to break his fingers, and he's going to break Pete in return. Leo Rush joined commentary. Angel Garza defeated Jack Gallagher in our next match. 4 minutes, just over 4 minutes via pin. Solid and fun match that was used to set up Angel Garza as a possible title challenger for Leo Rush. So in that regard, I think it worked.
Yeah, I mean the cruiserweights are on NXT now. It's still sort of weird because they have 205 Live, but it gives them some extra visibility, and I'm completely fine with that. And I like Angel Garza as a challenger. He's really good, and he's fresh for Leo Rush. And I think that's been the biggest thing for the cruiserweights being on NXT now is this stuff feels a lot fresher, because we both watch 205 Live, and it's not a bad show. Typically, it's actually a good show outside of there's no reaction for these guys. But it has felt like the same guys for however long now. Like Leo feels fresh, Garza feels fresh, and that's a good thing for whatever's left of that damn brand.
Yeah, 205 Live definitely feels like it's dying on the vine these days, unfortunately. So it's hard to keep that show alive when people don't care. But again, that's part of WWE's doing for shunting it after SmackDown, which was never a good plan. Just not going to work.
No, not at all.
So next up, we had Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai defeating Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke, just over 3 minutes. It was exactly what it needed to be. The heels attacked, they controlled early, the baby faces mounted a big comeback. Tegan Nox won with the shiniest wizard, so you got your baby faces moving on to challenge. Technically, your heels, Asuka and Kairi Sane, because they're heels, but like you said, they're going to get a great reaction in Full Sail next week. Should be a fun match, though, because Tegan and Dakota are a lot of fun. They're a good team. And I'm looking forward to that match next week.
Yeah. This match wasn't much. I don't know if I was expecting to go a little bit longer, but considering the stakes, I guess I thought it would go a little bit longer. It was probably good that it didn't because the horsewomen, and they've been working hard and stuff. They do a lot of the live events, but they're still not all that great. And Dakota Kai and Tegan Knox, like I love both of them. Let's not have them go too long and risk an injury here because that would be the worst case scenario for everybody involved. Yeah, the match next week. I like that the Kabuki Warriors showed up on screen and talked Japanese, and they were like, "You got no chance," and I thought that was perfect. So yeah, I like who won. The winner I didn't think was really in doubt because you're not putting the fucking horsewomen in that position. I wouldn't think, and. Yeah, Kabuki Warriors against Team Kick is going to be pretty good.
Very much looking forward to that. That's the big hook for next week. Main event, NXT North American Champion Roderick Strong defeated Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic in 15 minutes via pin. This was pretty great. Easily the best thing on the show, I felt. Really love this. We talk about Roddy, he doesn't get enough credit over the past 10 years for all the good stuff he's done. Lee and Dijakovic have been really good, obviously, here in NXT. Just doing big lad things that big lads shouldn't really do. I thought the match, though, was great. I thought all three guys delivered. I thought they kept a great pace, had some great big spots. The finish was really great because Roddy is basically trying to be a little douche and surviving and getting in cheap shots every time he can. Lee and Dijakovic work up top. Lee hits the big super bomb. But that son of a bitch Roddy flies in at the end with the sick kick and takes him out and picks up the win, sneaking away with his championship one more time, Jeremy.
Match was fantastic as you would expect it to be. I think my favorite match from either show, and there was a lot of great wrestling tonight as there is every single Wednesday, but I thought this match was a step above everything else. Like Lee and Dijakovic, we know they're awesome. The way they're able to move for their size is almost unheard of. And yeah, Roddy Strong just great at what he does. I thought the timing was really well, like Strong coming in right at the end to steal a victory, like perfectly timed to where there was no waiting around or anything. Like the timing throughout this match was really good. Just three excellent professional wrestlers. Some people will complain that it's like big moves and to stuff like that. But it's similar to what you see on AEW. Like I'm not going to knock this match for being very similar to Private Party against the Lucha Bros because it is a lot of moves, but that's almost wrestling in 2019. And there still was a story, much like Private Party and Lucha Bros. Like there was still a story to this match, and the story was really Roddy Strong staying the fuck out of the way when he needed to let these guys beat each other, and then picking his spots, and that's exactly what he did. So I thought this match was great.
Really, really enjoyed this. Roddy is a sneaky little douchebag, sneaking away with the title. Worked really well here. Lee and Dijakovic, just again, they work really well together. I'm glad Roddy's not dead. There was one really scary Tower of Doom spot. I thought Roddy was going to die on that, but otherwise, just a ton of great stuff. Really enjoyed. Post-match, the Undisputed Era laid the boots to Lee and Dijakovic, standing tall until Tommaso Ciampa arrived. He was followed with Johnny Gargano, and they were ready to take on Undisputed, and then Finn Balor arrived. We had the big standoff. They were all ready to fight. Finn starts taking off his jacket, and in mid-jacket removal, hits a fucking Pele kick to Johnny Gargano's face and turns heel. Which I will say was really well done. Because my man is like slipping his coat off and hits that move like perfectly. So,
this was, look, it shocked the shit out of me. I did not think, we all knew Balor was coming out when they did the standoff. There was the invisible wall there, and I did the big standoff. The crowd chanted for Balor. We knew it was coming. It comes out, and it's like, okay. I was actually waiting. I was legitimately waiting for someone else because it was still 4 against 3, and so I was like, oh, like who's coming out? Like which WWE main roster guy is going to come out here who had like a run in NXT. And I don't even know who you could have brought out outside of like Kevin Owens, but obviously he wasn't going to be the guy. So, but I was legitimately waiting for a fourth guy to come out, like a former NXT star who's now on the Raw or SmackDown. It didn't happen, and Balor, as you said, he walks like he looks like he's removing his jacket, and then he just fucking hits that Pele kick, and like the timing was so good. I was completely stunned, completely thrown off by it, but I loved it. Undisputed Era beats down Gargano and Ciampa. Balor fucking runs through him, and yeah, I thought this angle was really, really good, and this was a great hook for next week's show as well, like a really great hook to be like, oh shit, like you gotta tune in next week to see what the fuck's gonna happen here. And I think NXT has been missing that a little bit. They had it the first week because you had Ciampa coming back and everything, but these past few weeks you haven't really had that at the very end. It's just gonna be like, all right, cool, like matches happen and whatnot, but like this was a big hook to where it's like you gotta tune in next week to see what happens.
Yeah, I thought it came off as a really hot angle. I don't hate the idea of a Balor heel turn. I kind of feel like maybe it's too soon, but again, I am more than willing to see how it plays out, because maybe it's the perfect time. Because sometimes you overplay your hand and you wait too long and then it's ruined or everybody sees it coming. So maybe this is going to work perfectly, and maybe this is like a preview of War Games, because in my report I noted, could we end up seeing maybe Undisputed and Balor versus Ciampa, Gargano, Lee, Dijakovic, and maybe like Velveteen Dream or Riddle?
Yeah, I think those are the five names for my guess would be Dream over Riddle, but just because, but if he's actually like has a back injury, we don't know how serious that is. I guess he's got a month to recover, but if he's actually like hurt, then Riddle would make more sense in that spot. I was shocked. I didn't see this one coming. It seemed like Balor, and I think that's why it did work. Like, you're right that it could have been too early. They definitely could have gotten more out of a Finn Balor face run in NXT, but we've seen it. Like, he's been a face. Like, we've seen it. It would get a good reaction and everything, and that was what was expected. Everyone expected him to come back. Like, he stood in front of Adam Cole, kind of challenged him and everything. It's like, okay, we're going to get the Finn Balor face run. It's going to be great because Finn Balor's awesome. The Full Sail crowd loves him, but we've seen it. Like, now we're getting heel Finn Balor, and we have not seen that in NXT. Like, we've seen it in New Japan, but the NXT fans haven't seen it. And like, heel Finn Balor is like what made him big. Like, this was Bullet Club stuff, and Bullet Club is, they've had their many different versions and stuff, but that was started with heel Finn Balor. So I'm looking forward to this. I think this was a good timing move because it was so unexpected.
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, it may very well play out that way, and I think it's great if it does, because again, I'd rather them not overextend Balor and then everybody see it coming, or everybody start turning on him and then they do it, because then it looks like a reactionary move. So again, I'm perfectly fine with it. Yeah, he ended up murdering Gargano on the floor with a John Woo into the barricade and took out a bunch of fans, and then hit Bloody Sunday on the ramp. And yeah, Balor this came off really well. And again, it felt like a hot angle, and to your point too, does feel like a really good hook for next week.
Yeah, I can't wait for NXT next week. I'm sure AEW is going to be great. They got the tag finals. They'll probably announce some other big stuff and whatnot. It'll probably be a really strong show. But as far as like what's your hook that you're giving me to close the show, you got Moxley and Pac ending in a draw or a time limit finish. Okay, there's a little bit of a hook there. You want to see what they do to follow that up, but it seems like that'll be kind of more announced on social media. I truly hope they announce that, hey, Jon Moxley's gonna fucking talk, and that's what's opening the show. Because if that's the case, then I'm watching Dynamite. But if not, then NXT has the better hook with, all right, Finn Balor turned. What's gonna happen? I don't need his whole explain the actions, why Finn, why bullshit. Like we've seen that a million times. But I hope they don't tease any of that stuff. Just let this breathe. Of he turned. We want an answer, but don't be like, oh, Finn Balor is gonna explain his actions and shit. Don't do that. Like you don't need to promote sometimes. You don't need to promote. Like, let your show do the promotion for you. And I think that's what this can be is, all right, we saw the ending. That's your promotion. You don't need to beat me over the head with Finn Balor explains his actions. Finn Balor is going to speak and stuff because why? Then you're disappointed if he doesn't explain it. Then you're disappointed if he's like, he goes out there and like, I did it because, he cuts the generic heel promo that they all cut in WWE, like the fucking fans and all this shit. And we don't need any of that. Just, he turned. That's my reason to tune in.
Fair enough, man. Fire it up, Jeremy. I love it.
Listen, Wednesday nights, man, I get fired, and I missed last week as well. I get fired up on these Wednesdays, especially when we record right after the shows. Like, it's still fresh in my mind, and Wednesday rules. Like, we talk about it all the time. Wednesday, 4 hours of wrestling, it feels like 1 hour of wrestling. Compared to Raw, Raw was fucking, I thought that show had lasted 5 hours, and it was about 75 minutes long, and I was like, oh my god, the show's not even halfway over yet. Wednesday nights though goes by like that, and it's all good. NXT ruled this week, AEW ruled this week, like a lot of great wrestling, some big moments, some big angles. Wednesdays are awesome.
I agree, Wednesdays are great, Jeremy. So that's going to leave us to our kind of comparison breakdown and who we thought won the week. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I think NXT won the week based on they had the best match. I thought the North American title match was that was my favorite match from the two shows, and they had the best angle. The Finn Balor turn was the best angle. Now, as far as like action start to finish, AEW did a better job. Like that show was hot start to finish. It was great. When we do this stuff, it's not to, bury one show. If you listen to the full reviews, you realize we're not burying any of this stuff. I personally enjoyed NXT more this week.
Fair enough. It's weird. We're getting this blowback already 4 weeks in now, and all of a sudden it's Larry hates NXT, and Larry always says AEW is the better show. And
you said NXT was the better show the first week.
Don't let facts get in the way. But here's the point. If you guys don't listen to some of these other shows out there, and I mean, you should be just listening to us, but there are shows that all they do is talk about how NXT sucks now. NXT feels minor league. Lee and Dijakovic were better in PWG. And that's all they fucking talk about. And all of a sudden, NXT has become a bad show to these people. And I spoke about it last week with Steve. If you read my review, if you listen to these shows, I do nothing but call NXT a good show every week. I enjoy NXT. I thought there were some very good matches on NXT this week. I thought the three-way was a great main event. I thought the angle, again, like I said, time will tell if the timing was right. But regardless of it, on this night, that angle came off as a hot angle, and as Jeremy said, it's a great hook for next week. Thought NXT was a good show this week. This week I liked AEW better. I thought it was an aggressive show. It was an action-packed show. Yes, we could have used some more vignettes and stuff like that and some promos, and I could have done again without the Britt Baker match. I think you could have used that time much better than they did. But overall, that was a show that felt hot from the opening bell to the closing bell for me. And there was also a show that they could have went ahead and taken the night easy because they had huge competition with the World Series tonight. They know they're going to get hit in the ratings. Everybody knows everybody's getting hit in the ratings tonight. They could have took it easy tonight. I felt Dynamite came out and they were aggressive in the fact that this is our fucking show. We're doing our show. We don't give a shit what else is on tonight. And I appreciated that and I enjoyed the shit out of that show. Again, personal enjoyment comes into a factor. Personally, I enjoyed AEW this week. Did I think NXT was bad? Fuck no. It was a good show with a great main event, some decent stuff set up for next week. NXT, despite what some people will tell you, is still a good weekly show. I know all of a sudden that, I'm enjoying AEW more personally, yes. But I get that some people are going to pull the AEW's the new shiny toy thing, so now we can forget about NXT and call it a bad show that doesn't matter and it feels obsolete and all this stupid bullshit I keep reading and listening to. And that is, just, again, the farthest from the case. NXT is still a really good show. I think it can still be better because I think there's a lot of great people on that brand that could be used a bit better. Now, again, they're doing a little bit better in using promo packages than they were in the first couple weeks, which is a little better than the AEW stuff. But again, the NXT show, the flow of the show for me doesn't always feel quite as locked in and as aggressive and fast moving as I would like. Now, again, it does not feel like Raw and feel like 9 hours long. God no. It's just, again, I'm finding the AEW product a little bit better to my liking. But please don't get lost in the fact that NXT is still a good show, despite the fact of what some people are trying to tell you. I think it's hilarious that, and this is not just like AEW supporters, I'm talking about people that were hardcore NXT lovers, and all of a sudden they're like, I don't like NXT now, it's 2 hours. And there's no other reason than that. It's like you're getting all the people you got before, you're getting some new people. NXT is still a good show. I don't understand why people think it's not. But again, I'm the guy that's just going to be, they're going to keep throwing at me that Larry always overrates AEW by 2 points and underrates NXT by 2 points. It's horrible. He didn't like anything on the show. Yes, I just love the shit out of that 4-star main event of the Triple Threat, Jeremy. I'm bad.
I don't read comments on your columns because, no offense, you bring out the worst people when it comes to comments because you've been doing it for so long, and I think it's you've built up a lot of cachet, and I think you're the absolute best when it comes to rating matches. So you're going to draw kind of that crowd of, people are going to disagree or agree and whatnot. But I don't think AEW I think NXT was the better show this week. That's just my opinion. I hope no one takes that as, oh, well, you don't like AEW. Like I praised AEW. Did I nitpick some stuff? Sure. Yes. I will nitpick stuff with NXT as well because that's just, there's always going to be there's no perfect wrestling show out there. It's very tough to have a perfect wrestling show. My complaints with AEW is you like the action-packed, balls to the wall stuff, and I think that's great. I'm all for it. I like it to be slowed down just a little bit, and I don't think AEW does that quite enough because really this was nothing but wrestling matches, and then you had the Cody thing, but even the Cody thing was just a giant brawl. It wasn't, it wasn't a promo. It was just, it was more action, and that's what this show was, start to finish, and that's great. But I like a little, slow it down for me. Slow it down, kid. Grab a headlock, double up, drop down, up and under, whatever the fuck the thing is. I like that a little bit more, and that's why NXT does that for me. And NXT also, at least for this week, I thought they had the best match, and I thought they had the best angle. So that's why I went with NXT. But AEW was still a great show. Both of these shows are fucking great. I don't know why anybody is complaining. Did you watch Raw? Raw sucked. Did you watch, even last week's SmackDown wasn't all that great. It just, Raw and SmackDown just feel very normal to me. It's okay, they're slowed down, but they're slowed down in such a way to it makes the whole show drag. NXT is slowed down, but nothing really drags to me on that show. And AEW doesn't slow down at all. So it doesn't, and that's my minor issue with it is I wish they would slow it down a little bit more. I don't want to be hit in the face over and over again. It's like I'm gonna use a porn reference here. Draw these porn fans. AEW is like a fucking just cum shot compilation. Like just over and over again. Cum shot, cum shot, cum shot. Give me some build up. Give me some foreplay.
Oh, that's gonna be probably clipped somewhere, dude. No, that's fine. No, and again, yeah, it's like I don't understand why. Like this weird thing about the NXT thing, like all of a sudden it's bad and people think I hate it when I keep calling it good, and there are other people that are actually calling NXT a bad show, and I don't get it. I mean, I am enjoying the hell out of Wednesday nights. I think overall we're getting 4 hours of great every Wednesday night. Do I like one a little bit more some weeks? Yeah. I liked AEW this week. Jeremy liked NXT, and that's, again, personal opinion coming into it. Nobody's wrong. We both had a great time, and that's kind of the whole key to it for me. I'm having fun. And just the thing is, Wednesday is bringing that more fun back, and I'm enjoying Tuesdays right now with NWA Power and Dark, and then Impact starting next week, full-time on Access, so we're going to have a big block on Tuesdays, but the Wednesday stuff is just so reinvigorating after having to sit through the at best mediocrity of Raw and SmackDown.
What do you think the ratings are this week? Because you mentioned it, they were up against some pretty heavy competition with Game 2 of the World Series. That game did turn into a blowout, but it didn't really turn into a blowout until both shows were off the air. Like the Nationals decided to do all of their runs like right at 10 o'clock, so kind of sucked for both shows in that regards. There's NBA tip-off on more opening night games on ESPN, and more opening night games. There's 11 NBA games and all opening night for teams, so 22 different markets were like, oh hey, my NBA team is tipping off tonight, so like that would be something to watch over these two shows, along with the two national games on ESPN. I guess the one national game wouldn't have started yet, but the Sixers and the Celtics, so that's Philadelphia and Boston, which are obviously two pretty big markets, were the ESPN game at 7:30 and ran all the way through NXT and AEW. So what do you think the ratings are going to be with that kind of competition?
They're definitely both going to be down. That is a lot of competition. If I had to guess numbers, I'll go 900,000 for AEW, 600 for NXT.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 850 and 600.
850 may be fair because that basketball could take a big chunk.
Basketball, and the other thing is like AEW has done very well with that sports demographic, like that 18 to 49 demographic. Like NXT it skews older, and the older fans, I mean, they might be watching baseball. Baseball can sometimes skew old, but that fan base is typically kind of there. The NXT or the AEW fan base is very similar to, I feel like, a sports fan base. And so when you got two big markets like Philadelphia, like Boston, then of course the World Series as well, that's DC and Houston. Those are good sized markets as well. That it's going to be tough for AEW. I am interested because I don't know if you watched the NBA on TNT, the games on Tuesday. There was a heavy push for Dynamite during those Tuesday games, and those games, they were big games. They had Toronto getting the rings, and then the LA Battle of LA was the late night game. That's where to the two LA markets, a lot of stars in that game. So plenty of people tuned in to those games. Dynamite got a big push on those TNT shows, and I wonder how that's going to help in the long term. I don't think it's going to help too much tonight, just because you're going against more NBA tip-off and Game 2 of the World Series. But long term, AEW is going to get that TNT push Tuesdays and Thursdays for NBA on TNT, and I just wonder how that's going to work long term, because we talked about it before. Like TNT's pushing the shit out of this show, and compared to USA Network, where they ain't pushing this show at all. Like they're barely pushing NXT. We don't see ads for this show outside of Raw, and TNT on the other hand, like they're pushing it every single night, and they're going to be pushing it on the NBA. So I think long term it's going to really benefit AEW. I don't think it's going to make too much of an impact to tomorrow in the ratings for tonight's show, but I think it's going to be very beneficial, come December.
Yeah, that is definitely more of a long term thing. Yeah, they're both shows I think are going to get dinged pretty well tomorrow night. You may be closer to I am with your 850 with AEW. It depends on how much of that audience of theirs tuned out and was into basketball in the World Series tonight. So we're definitely gonna find out here Thursday afternoon. But should be interesting. But I definitely think both shows drop down just because that's stiff competition, man. That's not easy for anybody, and that's just the way it's gonna be.
I think anything over 800 for AEW, I would consider that a win, and some people might be like, well, that still means they lost 200,000 viewers. Yeah, it does mean they lost 200,000 viewers, but, look what they were up against. Like, they were probably going to lose those 200,000 viewers. The big thing is, I can't recall if there's a World Series game next Wednesday. There is actually. It could be Game 7. If there's a Game 7, then they would go up against that, and they would get slaughtered by a Game 7. But if the Astros or the Astros come back and win 4 straight, or if the Nationals win 2 of the next 3 or 4, then Game 7 won't matter. I'm interested to see if, really next week, if they don't have the Game 7, because then NBA is a week old. There's no more opening night games. Everybody's played at least once, and so that kind of hype has died down a little bit. So if, let's say, AEW drops to 800, are those fans coming back next week without that competition? Are they back up over 1 million?
Yeah, and again, it's interesting to track, but we're not going to start getting solidly into what things are going to be until beginning of December and stuff. And first quarter of 2020 is also going to be really interesting just to see where things level out for both and to see if they can both start climbing back up.
I hope so, because we were really excited about this whole wrestling boom kind of thing, and I mean, AEW premiered strong, NXT premiered strong until AEW came along. Both shows have kind of slipped. Fox premiered really strong, SmackDown, and then they've lost fucking 1.5 million viewers in 2 weeks, whatever it is. Somebody will yell at me, be like, it's only 1.3 million. Yeah, and it's like, oh, maybe wrestling isn't as big as we kind of had hoped it was. But hey, we'll still be watching, and hopefully other people start picking it up because it's good. Wednesday night's good. Watch wrestling on Wednesday nights.
I'm having, again, so much fun, and I don't know how some people are getting that wrong and thinking I'm not. It's just really weird to me. I mean, I don't know how many times I can say this was good, this was great in a review, and then come on here and say Wednesday night was great again, and I loved it. So,
I think what bothers me about this whole Wednesday thing is, and both NXT and AEW more than NXT, because this is their rallying cry of, I'm with AEW, and we're the alternative, and fair play to them. This is how they almost exist now, is by getting this fan base behind them. But the fans make you feel like you have to pick a side in this shit, and whatever side you're not picking, then you're against. I think this is sounds like the backlash you're getting, and I got this as well because I wrote the article on Seth Rollins when he clearly, tongue-in-cheek, he's like, hey, when Kenny Omega's done with this minor league stuff, come face me at WrestleMania. And it's like, what Rollins said isn't any worse than what Kenny Omega had been saying, and they're all just bullshitting around. They're I don't know if they're friends, but these guys understand what the game is, and they understand what they're doing. And my mentions are just blowing up of oh, well, you didn't have the same kind of energy when Omega said this, and Rollins is blah, 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 and Omega blah, blah, blah. It's you don't have to pick a side during this shit. And just because one show is good one week and the other show is good the next week and whatever, you really don't have to pick a side during this. You can enjoy both programs. You can think both programs are well. We pick a winner on which show we enjoyed more because that's part of our podcast, but both shows are still really good. And you truthfully do not, like, just because you say one bad thing about AEW or you say one bad thing about NXT doesn't mean you are on that side. Like, you could just be a fan of both and enjoy them both. Like, you don't have to pick sides, everybody. You really don't.
I'm on the side of wrestling, and more importantly, good wrestling, which is what Wednesday night is. Which is why we're doing this, because we have so much fun talking about it compared to some of the other stuff we have to talk about.
Yeah, I'm on the side of whatever makes me feel like a valuable use of my time, and that is both NXT and AEW. I don't feel like my time is wasted when I watch these shows, and that is all I can ask for. Is if I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna watch these shows for 2 hours, I just want to feel like, okay, that was worth the investment.
Which is, again, why I'm enjoying, like, Tuesday and stuff, because I dig AEW or NWA Power being so different. I like NWA Power, and I like AEW Dark. Good supplemental programs to give some of the other people on TV a look. And it's a fun 2 hours, and now I'm going to have Impact after that. And I'm hoping that the Access version of Impact Wrestling is going to be better than what it was, including production and everything. Because, like, on the This Is Impact show they did this week as an introductory special, the in-studio stuff from Access TV looked great. And so I'm hoping that some of that new production stuff will leak its way into the normal programming and be better. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. But yeah, Wednesdays are great. If you're not having fun Wednesdays, I don't know what you're watching.
No, it's great.
But that's going to wrap Jeremy and I up for this week. We will go take a little break. We will be back next Wednesday/Thursday to break down next week's shows. So thank you guys for listening. This is the 411 on Wrestling Podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, and of course the 411mania.com website. Please make sure to subscribe to our show, share us around on social media, and if you have time, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Have a good week, everybody.